Welcome back to Ben's Top 10. And when I was a kid, people were allowed to have different opinions. Let's face it, I'm not funny. But people seem to think I'm funny, so I guess I'm doing something right. I guess people think I'm funny because I have a good, clean sense of humor, because I have good taste in comedy. And I take pointers on being funny from a lot of different comedians and cartoons. So, I'm going to count down the top 10 people that make me laugh and make me want to make other people laugh, but I fail miserably at. So, get ready to fall out of your chairs laughing. Here are my top 10 comedic influences. Number 10, Jay Ward. A lot of you don't know who this man is, and a lot of you probably don't want to know who he is, but you're going to find out anyway. Jay Ward was the creator and producer of several cartoons from the golden age of TV. You might know him as the producer for such shows as Crusader Rabbit, George of the Jungle, and most notably, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Anyway, Jay Ward is a comedic influence to me because he specialized in making cartoons that are aware that they are cartoons, as well as making them poke fun at the outside world. And you all know how I love making fun of the world. He also loved making cartoon shows that adults would enjoy as much as children, and I'm a strong supporter of that kind of cartoon making. He also was a big fan of puns. Although puns could be seen as the lowest form of comedy to some, Jay made sure his puns were both cheesy, but cheesy enough to get a laugh out of people. Although it was his writers that might have had a bigger factor in the final product, Jay Ward was the man who pulled the strings and encouraged his cartoons to be made as funny as they could be, and as smart as they could be at the same time. Number 9, Bill Cosby. Here's somebody I didn't get into until a few months ago. Over the years, I've heard so much about him, and I've never been able to see his body of work. Well, reruns of The Cosby Show and Kids Say the Darndest Things helped me see how funny this man could be. Anyway, I'm influenced by Bill because he is able to find humor in the most serious situations. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is by him. He once said, "If you can find humor in anything, you can survive it." So true. If people will learn to just laugh sometimes, the world would be a better place. Anyway, Bill is also good at finding humor in things that you can't normally find humor in. I remember in one episode of The Cosby Show, he was cooking food with several pots and pans and started beating on them as if they were drums. That's hilarious! He's also good at taking what people say and using them to comedic effect. Like, in Kids Say the Darndest Things, one boy said he was playing basketball while wearing Michael Jordan's shoes, and Bill asked, "Does Michael Jordan know you're wearing his shoes?" Again, that's hilarious. Bottom line, Bill Cosby is one comedian that taught me to laugh at serious things and has loaded me up on comebacks against my foes. Number 8, Jim Carrey. One funny man that critics don't like very much. Well, they can go stick it for all I care. Anyway, Jim Carrey is one energetic actor, and that just helps him to be one of the most hilarious people of all time. What I love about Jim is his energy. Almost everything he does with lots of exaggeration, and it just cracks me up. Another thing I love about him is his mannerisms. When he's ticked off, he goes on a humorous rant about the thing that ticks him off, and he constantly switches emotions while ripping apart the thing that's making him angry. It's a laugh riot. I should try that when I'm ranting. Oh wait, I don't make rants anymore. Not to mention, his movies are some of my favorite comedies of all time. When I watch a Jim Carrey movie, I know what I'm in for. Even his worst movies I find enjoyment in, mainly because he's so good at doing best with what he's given. Anyway, there's also his facial expressions, his timing, and his sheer zaniness. He's one comedic actor that I look up to when I'm ready to just be as crazy as I could possibly be. Number 7, Pinkie Pie. The first cartoon character to make the list. Keep that in mind. The first. Anyway, Time for the haters to be annoyed with My Little Pony Friendship It's Magic's master of humor. What I love about Pinkie Pie is everything about her. She is one character that is not short on humor and craziness. Well, it's no wonder the element she represents is laughter. She just cracks me up every time she's on screen. She could be in the background and I'll still laugh at her. Her humor comes from, of course, her wackiness, her randomness, and fast talking. She is basically an embodiment of every screwball cartoon character there is. Plus, I love that no matter what happens, she's always got a smile on her face, and she's also one to find humor in any situation, and I never get tired of it. I take a lot from Pinkie, even her hopping around without a care everywhere she goes. I tend to do that a lot. I also tend to break out in song like she does. There's never a wrong time for a song. Anyway, Pinkie Pie is one of the funniest cartoon characters ever, and one of the best modern cartoon characters, period. Number 6. Weird Al Yankovic. The greatest music parodist on the face of the earth is one of my biggest comedic influences. He's mostly known for his humorous songs. I take a lot of influence from those because when I'm bored, I like to randomly parody songs, so Al teaches me how to do it properly. Also, his music videos I take a lot of influence from because they have some of the craziest sight gags I've ever seen. I also take a lot of influence from the type of humor he specializes in his music. Dark humor. I'm a huge fan of dark humor, so a lot of my jokes are jokes that most people laugh at but feel ashamed at laughing at. I also like all the specifics he puts into his jokes. Like one of his jokes from his song Albuquerque, where he enters a contest to see who can guess the number of molecules on Leonard Nimoy's hiney. He was off by 3, but he still wins. It's attention to detail he puts in his jokes that make them funnier, and I take a lot of influence from that. Al is also again a great example of family-friendly humor that adults are more likely to like than kids. So, I take a lot of influence from the accordion-wielding polka prankster. Number 5. Abbott and Costello. One of the greatest comedy duos of all time. I love these two because they're masters of miscommunication. Of course, their humor only works because they are two people. So, how can a single person like me take from that? Well, even though they work best when they're together, there's some I can take from them separately. Unlike most comedy teams where the straight man is the victim of the screwball's antics, in this team, it's the straight man that picks on the screwball. I can take Bud Abbott's straight man persona and how he's always able to outsmart and trick Costello. And I can take influence from Lou Costello's innocence and his funny quotes. I can't count how many times I've said, "I'm a bad boy." Anyway, although they are a comedy team, and I consider myself more of a slapstick comedian, I take a lot from Abbott and Costello's bickering and miscommunication. Number 4. Laurel and Hardy. Again, this is another comedy team, but I can take a lot from these two. Oliver Hardy may be the fat guy of the two, but he's actually the straight man. And Stan Laurel is the one who's always screwing things up. Anyway, I get some influence from Hardy because of his reactions to all the mistakes that Laurel makes. However, I think I take most of the influence from Stan Laurel. He's such a screw-up that he's the one that gets the most laughs from me when I watch something Laurel and Hardy related. I just love how he's always miscommunicating with Hardy and always accidentally causing Hardy to get hurt. It cracks me up. I consider myself a physical comedian, so Stan and Ollie are definitely guys I look up to when I feel like hurting myself to get a laugh. Which is very rare. Number 3. The Three Stooges. The masters of slapstick are also big comedic influences to me. Although most of their humor is slapstick related, there's a lot of other things I can take from them. I take a lot from Moe's grouchy leader attitude. He's the master of insults and just being a jerk. I take a lot from him when I comedically make fun of one of my friends. And Although Larry is considered the black sheep of the group, I like to use his facial reactions as means to get a laugh. And there's Curly. Curly is just one of those comedians that you don't find that often. I take a lot from Curly, from his one-liners to his funny voice and his improv skills. It's been said that a lot of writers for the group often left gaps in scripts that Curly would fill with his ad-libbing, and I can see why. He was able to find a way to get a laugh with normal objects and make up funny things on the spot. Seeing as how I normally don't use scripts in my personal life, I take pointers from that. Even though these guys are the masters of hurting themselves, I take the not-so-violent stuff from them. Number 2, the Marx Brothers. The Marx Brothers are a comedian's dream come true. 3 funny guys and 1 straight man all together in one group. There's so much for a funny person to take from these guys, and each member represents a different type of comedy. Groucho Marx is the master of one-liners. Every sentence that comes out of his mouth is a hilarious one-liner, and I take most of my verbal humor from him. One-liners are mostly sentences that start out good, but then they contradict themselves in a humorous manner. For example, the famous line, "One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got my pajamas, I don't know. It's comedic gold." Then, there's Chico Marx. He has verbal humor as well, but his verbal humor comes from miscommunication as well, as he always gets words mixed up due to his Italian accent. And, also, he has a lot of ironic one-liners, and he is a master of conning people. And there's Zeppo, who does nothing but sings well. And finally, my favorite, Harpo. Harpo is the physical comedian of the group, and he is silent but very funny. He's great at using props to make a laugh, and he's great at annoying people with his physicality. Seeing as how I'm a physical comedian, I take influence from Harpo's use of prop comedy and try to use props whenever I can to get a laugh. And when I don't have the prop with me, I use my mouth to make the joke work. Bottom line, the Marx Brothers are great comedians that I take a lot from all 4 of, except Zeppo. And my number 1 comedic influence is... No. A little better. There you go. Tex Avery and Looney Tunes. Yep, my favorite animator of all time is my biggest comedic influence, but I add Looney Tunes to the list because I find them both very similar. What I take from Tex Avery is he's the funniest cartoon director ever, and he specialized in making cartoons as cartoony as they could be. However, seeing as how we're not living in a cartoon world, as much as I wish we were, I can't do much with that. However, I can't act like a lot of the cartoon characters that Tex Avery created. I could also use a lot of the funny quotes Tex has come up with, like, monotonous, isn't it? And I take a lot from Looney Tunes, because there's so much to take from them. Bugs Bunny's smart aleck attitude, Daffy's craziness and egotism, Porky's stuttering, Elmer Fudd's speech problems, Yosemite Sam's anger, and so much more. The Looney Tunes may be cartoons, but they're also so human in nature that we can't help but to borrow from them. So, Tex Avery and Looney Tunes are my biggest comedic influences. Although I can't do much with cartoony humor, you can bet that once I'm making my own cartoons, they're going to be the biggest homages to Tex Avery and Looney Tunes ever. And there are my top 10 biggest comedic influences. I may not think I'm funny, but I borrow a lot of my material from these amazing comedians and cartoon characters. I just try to be as funny as I can be to brighten up situations and just try to help spread positivity everywhere I go. Anyway, I'm Ben, and I'm signing out. I'm gonna go fire my editor. Wait, I'm my own editor.